Okay, we are rolling. Champions of Champions Boxing Talk. We're back with another. I bet you guys are actually getting sick of hearing my voice now, aren't you? You know, I genuinely don't put videos out at the rate that some of the other boxing YouTube channels do, but I've been quite prolific by my own standards lately. So what's this video about? Well, we're going to take a trip to the heavyweight division today, and we've got a fight coming up between Anthony Joshua and Mr. Povetkin. Alexander Povetkin. Controversial figure, isn't he, in the sport somewhat? This fight, I'm presuming, will be one of those that will be at Wembley Stadium. A two-fight deal with Anthony Joshua and what was sorted out with his promoter, Eddie Hearn. You know, many people are saying that let's just backtrack a little bit and go to the other guy over in the United States. Isn't it amazing? There's been a lot of issues lately with the States, the United Kingdom and Russia, and you've got three parts in this: Povetkin, Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. And the fear is that somewhere along the way, something nuclear could land on something from the UK, i.e. a chin, and a real big punch that lands on Anthony Joshua's chin. He falls down, doesn't make the count, and then the Deontay Wilder fight is put back or never happens at all. Deontay Wilder is actually in his 30s. I think he's 33 years of age, ladies and gentlemen. 33. The longer we go without this fight, you've got to wonder, that can't help Deontay Wilder. He needs this fight soon while he still has some of his prime. Because people underestimate it so much, but youth is important in boxing. It's a young man's sport. Now this guy, he's in his late 30s, Povetkin, right? But he has. That's if you don't sort of take the, shall we say, performance-enhancing stuff into account. He actually has a fair good resume. These are just some of the names that this guy has beaten. Manuel Charr, current WBA regular champion, right? Christian Hammer, who absolutely wrecked David Price. He beat David Price in the UK. His only loss is to Vladimir Klitschko. He beat Marco Huck. Now, I know Marco Huck is not a heavyweight, but he has defended his cruiserweight crown a joint record number of times with Johnny Nelson. So that's not a bad, you know, foe to have on your resume. Hasim Rahman. We know about him. And let's go back to Hasim Rahman and relate this. Didn't Hasim Rahman land a punch that many people thought would have been the end of Lennox Lewis? And particularly the Lennox Lewis-Mike Tyson fight. Only for Lewis rematching Hasim Rahman and avenging that defeat in his next bout with a rematch clause. Who knows? We could have been running round the time machine till kingdom come and never got that fight, Lewis Tyson. So these are the things that can happen in boxing. Am I saying Povetkin is going to beat Anthony Joshua? Not necessarily. But we also have Carlos Takam on his record. And he actually beat Carlos Takam in 10 rounds. The same sort of finish in terms of rounds and how long he'd boxed. I think it took Anthony Joshua 10 rounds to beat Carlos Takam. So he's one defeat on his record. I do think against David Price he looked a bit vulnerable to David Price's power. And of course, when he landed his power shots, well, David Price does what David Price does. He got knocked out. Sorry, Pricey, but kind of had to say that. If David Price is hurting Povetkin, I believe Anthony Joshua can certainly hurt Povetkin. But I can't help but think, looking at the fight between Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker, Povetkin is the smaller guy, so he's going to be the one wanting to get close. Joshua is the guy that's going to be wanting to box at range and have some distance. Will the referee, which he didn't do against Joseph Parker, allow Povetkin to get up close, who is a good body puncher, and when he lands, he's certain about landing. He's accurate. Ask David Price. Now, I'm not saying David Price is Anthony Joshua, but he is a big guy like David Price, and Anthony Joshua cannot for a moment leave his chin exposed. It has to be tucked, and it has to be guarded at all times, I believe, in this fight. But if the referee does not let the Russian work in close and try and get to Anthony Joshua's body, because Joshua in his last fight v Joseph Parker was using more distance and a jab, and when the referee kept separating Parker from Joshua, that meant Parker was always on the end of Joshua's jab, and therefore he had no chance of winning. I think, personally, the scorecards were absolutely disgraceful. Anthony Joshua, I do like him, but he's becoming somewhat of the Canelo Alvarez of the UK. Good fighter, but by God, Eddie Hearn needs that product, and he wants to protect that product. I'm a UK fan, I'm a fan of UK boxing, I'm a fan of UK sport, but here you're getting the truth from the horse's mouth, because that's what it is. It doesn't take a genius to work it out, and many casuals in this country have fallen for it. People walk around and you ask them, and this reminds me of the Mike Tyson era, who wins out of Godzilla and Anthony Joshua, and they go, AJ all day. AJ all day. Ooh. You see men falling over like the women or something. I mean, it's ridiculous. I like Anthony Joshua because he's an improving fighter. He's developing that jab. He's moving better. He's not getting hit as often. He's not as reckless. But I think Vladimir Klitschko gave him that lesson. And also with Anthony Joshua, I can say this. When he lost all that weight to gain some speed against Joseph Parker in his last fight, I don't think the power was quite the same. I know Joseph Parker didn't let him hit or land shots as frequently as some other Anthony Joshua opponents have, but still, nonetheless, when he did get a chance to land on Joseph Parker, who's got good footwork and who is a very good mover, and who, again, wanted to work in close but wasn't allowed, even when Anthony Joshua went for the uppercut, which wasn't really landed as much as I thought it would be. I actually thought Anthony Joshua would win inside the distance. Of course, it went to the decision. But the power with the weight seemed to have gone a bit. Now, any human being can relate to this. When you lose weight, you could lift a wardrobe and have a couple of stone, and you lift a wardrobe and it's pretty easy to lift. You come back to it months later after losing 2 stone, and you find you've lost a bit of strength. Maybe that's the case with Anthony Joshua, but I think he may need some strength against Povetkin, because Povetkin is not as fast as Joseph Parker, but he will try to be more offensive, because Joseph Parker tried to pick his spots when he was going to be aggressive on the inside, but he remained outside and sort of outboxed, I think, in an attempt to get a moral victory. In other words, I went the distance with Anthony Joshua, therefore, it's a win-win for me and a moral victory. Because I can't get in close. They won't let me. So survive. But I didn't like the things that... I mean, you're a champion, for God's sake. I didn't like what Joseph Parker was saying in the sense of, well, the bigger and better man won. No, you just say the better man won, because that sounds like you're making half of an excuse. Had he talked about the referee, which I thought was terrible, then yes, but not the better, bigger man won. He made an excuse about the wrong thing, which was size. And he actually didn't make an excuse about what he should have done, which was the refereeing. Now, people said, well, working on the inside, the referee constantly breaking it up, that also went against Anthony Joshua. Not as much, because Anthony Joshua is the bigger guy with the bigger arms. So he's bound to want distance more than Joseph Parker. So it did affect Joseph Parker's game more than Anthony Joshua. That, to me, is just a fact. A fact. Right? So anyway, back to this fight. It only takes a punch to derail the Deontay Wilder fight. And Povetkin, I think, has the power if he catches Anthony Joshua. But he's going to need to be close to do it. And will he be allowed to be close to do it? And is he the same fighter he was? He's getting on, as I said. He's in the late 30s. The body shots will be pivotal. And you have to get close to land body shots. It's all about what the referee allows Povetkin to do. But here's the thing. If Povetkin stays in range long enough, and he's not quick enough to get out of range, which Joseph Parker is capable of, Anthony Joshua could nail him with the same uppercut that he did Vladimir Klitschko. Because I think that is a superb punch of Anthony Joshua's. One of the best in his artillery. That uppercut saved him a lot of controversy in the Vladimir Klitschko fight. They had him a mile ahead on points before the stoppage. I didn't. I thought Vladimir Klitschko was ahead. But Anthony Joshua, like a future champion, took it out of the judges' hands. Credit to him. And he finished the fight. So, it's not Anthony Joshua's fault, this stuff. I'm not saying it is. It's not the man himself's fault. It's the system. Right? It's the system. Same with all of them to a certain extent. These promoters are so frightened to lose their cash cows because not many of them, you know, have superstar fighters. I mean, you take, for all his glory, you take Anthony Joshua out of Eddie Hearn's stable. Alright, he's just brought in Amir Khan. Now, that's a big cue. But take those two out, it's not quite the same. Same with Oscar De La Hoya over in America. You take Canelo Alvarez out of that guy's grasp. Golden Boy is beginning then to look over its shoulder. Top Rank suddenly, now Manny Pacquiao has gone his way, is looking over its shoulder because Terence Crawford, great as he is just not the same sort of numbers. You take Kathy Duva and you pull Kovalev away from her. Who is she then? You take Tom Loeffler. He's known now because of Gennady Golovkin. Gennady Golovkin, the fighter, has promoted the promoter. Do you see what I'm saying? So these promoters are so scared that their cash cow could be taken out at any point and they don't have any substitute, that I'm sure it creates a paranoia among judges and officials. So in a close fight, you're never going to get the decision. So Povetkin has to knock Anthony Joshua out. He must know what he has to do. He's fighting at Wembley Stadium. So if he's allowed, he must go for the jugular. Now, Anthony Joshua, he's big, strong. And he knows David Price did trouble Povetkin. He's got the strength to tie Povetkin up. He's got the strength to lean on Povetkin. He's got still some power despite the weight loss to hurt Povetkin. He can actually apply body shots himself, and he has got a great uppercut. And when the fight is pushed at range, Anthony Joshua there for me wins all day with the jab. I'm expecting actually in this fight the jab to look better than it did in the Parker fight because Povetkin's head movement is not as good as Parker to me. I don't think so. He's more of a calculated destroyer, I would say, Povetkin. In other words, he's not going to be reckless swinging, as we would see, say, from Deontay Wilder. But he does have the power, I think, to hurt anyone. And he does like to be accurate. And he's measured. He's measured. And of course, you're going to get in this fight two measured fighters. But of course, at some point, if it's not going his way, Povetkin will have to take chances. And it will be interesting to see what happens from there. I actually think Anthony Joshua, in terms of fundamentals, has fought two better fighters, or will have fought two better fighters, than Deontay Wilder. Parker and Povetkin don't make the same mistakes in terms of technicality that Deontay Wilder makes. They genuinely have not had as many fights, I would say, where they've been behind on scorecards and needed superb power to rescue them, like Deontay Wilder. But of course, Anthony Joshua, I think Povetkin, it's a banana skin, it's a risk. As I said, one dig and you can bet your bottom dollar. Anthony Joshua is fighting this guy. He fought Parker last. He's fought Klitschko recently, Takam, etc. You can expect a guy to be plucked up for Deontay Wilder next that is going to be knocked over. Like one of them balls you've got when you go bowling. He'll just knock that guy over. Very simple. They won't take much risks. They won't. But of course, Anthony Joshua has to. Otherwise, he loses, I think, one of his titles, if I'm correct. So he has to take one of the division's danger men. So one dig in the right place derails a super fight. And people are saying all the time, let's let this thing marinate. Let me tell you the problem with marinating fights. You've got to presume that these guys are going to be at the top of the game forever. Well, not forever, but for a long, long time. These two might not be that special. You know, the other two guys, and I'm sick of mentioning the names, that took so long to fight each other, they were around for 2 decades, dominating. You know, glorious, winning things, record-breaking stuff. Muhammad Ali was around forever in the heavyweight division at his prime. Sugar Ray Leonard fought Roberto Duran once, and then in between the third fight there was years past. But these two, Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard, were god sensational, weren't they? And even then, these guys back in the day fought each other when they were both at the prime, even though their primes would go on longer. We don't know if Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder are this good. I've said it before and I'll say it again, whether it's Anthony Joshua or not, sooner or later a guy is going to turn up and make Deontay Wilder look like Michael Grant v Lennox Lewis. He's just going to get picked apart with all them flaws, no matter how unpredictable his style is, with the hand speed, the throwing from reckless angles so you can't necessarily read it, and his athleticism and his ability to maneuver. Sooner or later, him leaving himself wide open like that, him being down on the scorecards, is going to affect him. Someone is either going to make a little mistake and totally outpoint him and win a 12-round decision, or he's going to end up like Michael Grant. I think Lennox Lewis in his prime turns Deontay Wilder into Michael Grant. Those things, I don't know if Anthony Joshua will exploit it. We'll have to go there. He may be the man to do it. But sooner or later, someone is going to come up and he is going to, make Deontay Wilder pay for every flaw that he has. And Deontay Wilder at this point is getting old. He can't be learning new skills at 35. Or can he? Is he that gifted to adjust? We'll wait and see on that. But we're already seeing Anthony Joshua put some new things into place, aren't we? He's tying up at the right time. He's not taking shots at the right time. There's never a good time to take a shot. That was silly. But he's using a jab more, right? The foot movement is better. He doesn't look as clumsy, I think, as he used to do. Now, a lot of people are saying Anthony Joshua is doing more or less the same things. He's doing a lot of the same things, but he's doing things that are the same, but he's doing them better, if that makes sense. So at this moment in time, I'm expecting Anthony Joshua to beat Povetkin via KO, because I think Povetkin will not be on the back foot as much as Joseph Parker. Some of the reason Joseph Parker was on the back foot, as I said, was not his fault. That was down to the referee. But still, I think Joseph Parker had an instinct in that fight to survive it. I think Povetkin will have an instinct in this fight to try and win it. And that's when Anthony Joshua is dangerous. And, of course, Klitschko found that out. Dylan White found that out. Dylan White got so emotionally involved. He wanted to tear Anthony Joshua apart. Then in the end, he left himself wide open and exposed to Anthony Joshua himself. Klitschko's last hurrah. He really went for it at Wembley Stadium and put on at times an offensive performance. But that also left him open. And he also was two people in there. At times he was offensive, other times he was cautious, and that cost him the fight. Because when he had Anthony Joshua hurt, I know then, when Anthony Joshua was staggering around the ring, that is when a Deontay Wilder would finish you off. But Klitschko was too measured for his own good there. I think if Povetkin can get Anthony Joshua in that state, he will go for the jugular and make it either a case of me or you, because he'll have to. I can't see Povetkin looking for an easy moral points loss. I don't think he'll see it that way. I think he's got belief that he can win. I'm not sure Joseph Parker totally believed in himself that night. So he'll come and Anthony Joshua will be able to hit him. And as the fight goes on, if Anthony Joshua hits him with the right shot, I think he takes him out. With the uppercut especially, because David Price hurt him. That is clear in my mind. But also I know that this is the heavyweight division. And shocks are more likely in this division than any other division. Two featherweights, the best featherweight in the world, could fight the 30th or 40th best. And the 40th best featherweight in the world could clip the best featherweight in the world on the chin. And he might be hurt, but be able to cover up and survive an onslaught. In heavyweight boxing, the same thing happens. The other number 40 heavyweight v number 1 heavyweight. If number 40 hits number 1 heavyweight with the right shot, it's over. That is the difference when you're talking about real light guys with guys that weigh in over 17, 18 stone, etc. That is the difference. That's why you have to excuse the 2 losses Lennox Lewis had, because those guys landed the right punch. And of course, there is no lucky punch in boxing. There is none. If you throw a punch in a boxing ring, a contract was signed, you two are fighting, it's fair game if you throw a punch that's in the rules. No boxer wins by fluke, unless you get dodgy scoring by the scorecards. But I've heard this lucky punch nonsense said loads of times. The Oliver McCall punch and the Hasim Rahman punch, let me tell you now, they were not lucky punches. They were set up beautifully. Lennox Lewis left his chin open for a second. He was breathing for air. And when he opened his mouth, Hasim Rahman set that right hand up, knowing that it would have a bigger impact at that moment. And boom. That's all she wrote. That was not a lucky punch. Lennox Lewis is a better fighter. But let me tell you this. Hasim Rahman took his opening. It's like a Premier League striker. Jamie Vardy is not as good in his position as, say, David De Gea. But if Jamie Vardy goes through on goal and scores past David De Gea, he'll expose him in that moment, even though David De Gea is the better man for his position. Of course, the rematch, Lennox Lewis took Hasim Rahman to the cleaners. But didn't Lennox Lewis also land a shot that was not a lucky punch. He blinded him with the left jab and then came over with the right hand, and that was all she wrote. Right? So either way, there was no fluke there. So there are no lucky punches in boxing. But if the right punch is thrown, either from Povetkin or, dare I say, the pinball that Deontay Wilder is going to fight, it may derail this fight. It may even stop it, because Lennox Lewis, again, is like the other two that took years to fight. He's a special fighter. He was able to come back and be as strong as ever. Look at Mike Tyson after Buster Douglas knocked him out. He was never the same. Right? Never the same. Who's to say Anthony Joshua, if he doesn't get beat, if he does get beat, will ever be the same? We're all presuming these things. Anthony Joshua might not be the same already after that hellacious fight with Klitschko. He's more cautious than ever. And in fact, sometimes it seems to me that Anthony Joshua is trying to become a version of Klitschko now. And sort of, wheel and deal his way to victories rather than fighting, real powerful, frenetic fights anymore. That's what it seems like to me. There's an altering of his guard where this is concerned. So those are just thoughts for now to think about. It's obviously early. I think that I'm not going to talk about the magic juice, the Mexican beef that Povetkin was on. Maybe he was, at the taco stand with Canelo. I don't know. I know he was proven positive. What does that mean? We'll see. We'll see now he's fighting a real elite heavyweight, what it's all about. But for now, I guess this is the best we're going to get, the best clash. But hear me out, Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, providing they get through their tests, will happen. There's too much money on the table, and trust me, they're building this one up. They're building this one up. Don't believe for a second that two men like this, two very proud men, and I know about Anthony Joshua, he is no coward. He is no coward. And I've seen Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder is no coward. No coward. Those two men will fight. They will fight anybody. Deontay Wilder knew that Luis Ortiz could throw a spanner in the work, but he fought him. Anthony Joshua knew that Takam, Parker and Klitschko could throw spanners in works, but he fought them. They will fight each other. This is just the calm before the storm. The promotional calm before the promotional storm. Trust me on this. If they do the business, which is no guarantee, but if they do the business, the fights happen. And a little bit of cleverness. And again, this is not Anthony Joshua's doing. It isn't. It's promotes. Anthony Joshua is not his own boss. Eddie Hearn promotes him. Don't underestimate that Eddie Hearn will try and bring this out in the hope that some of the prime goes out of Deontay Wilder, because the longer it goes, the better for Anthony Joshua. But the fight will happen. As I said, they take care of business. We've got to fight. It's just one waiting game. And not one that's been as long as some fights. How long did we have to wait for Lewis Tyson? Anyone? Long time. So this is not the first time, and it won't be the last time. How long did we have to wait for Golovkin Canelo? Did we get Golovkin Canelo when we wanted it? No. We're still waiting for Kell Brook and Amir Khan. That's not happened yet. So people need to relax a little bit on this subject. And I'm not just saying it. These two are not the most exciting fighters I've ever seen. We're desperate for great heavyweights, so that's why they get such high publicity. But trust me, there are fights that right now I'm desperate to see more than this. There's one with Liam Smith at the weekend. Think about that. So, hype. But I know boxing, and you listening know boxing. And to me, I'll take it. Even if they said it wouldn't happen, it wouldn't make much difference to me. But it will happen because it's a promotional and commercial success all the way through the board. So, expect an announcement. It will be announced. This is Champions of Champions Boxing Talk, and I'm out.